Today I'm going to show you how to install BedRug's Impact Bed Liner on this 2018 Ford F-150 with a 5.5 foot bed. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so normally we would start our installations with a bed liner already pulled out and everything washed up, but we wanted to actually take a little bit of time and show you what a bed liner like this can actually do to your truck. So yes, it is going to protect from heavy dents and dings, from heavy items being back here, but it's also going to wear through your bed a little bit, and once we get this thing off, you're going to see that. So now we got our factory liner off, and you can see that it hasn't really kept the dirt and the leaves and stuff from getting underneath of it. I mean, this thing is completely trashed. And remember guys, this thing only has 15,000 miles on it, and you can already see wear patterns on almost the entire floor and on the back. Now we're going to get this whole thing cleaned up, use some soap and water, and make sure that it's ready for our installation, but then we can also go back in and see where those wear patterns actually are. Okay guys, so as you can see, there's plenty of spots where that bed liner has kind of worn through the paint and worn down to the actual bare aluminum. That's why we're installing this bed liner. Let's go ahead and get started. So now the first thing that you're going to want to do for the installation is to unroll all of your mats, your sidewall and your bottom portion. Make sure you put some weights on the corners of those to kind of flatten it all out. It's going to come all rolled up in your box. It's just going to make it easier to put everything together. Once you've done that, we've gone ahead and flipped everything upside down. Since our zippers are on the bottom of our floor piece and our side panel, it's just going to make it easier to zip everything together. So with this flipped upside down and our tailgate portion facing forward, our zipper is going to be on our right, and that's where we're going to get started. Now here's our zipper on our floor mat portion, and we're just going to match that up with our sidewall. Slide that in, and then once we have that all the way back, we can start to zip everything together. So now we can just finish zipping everything together. Just make sure you pull both pieces close together. And this zipper is going to run all the way down one side, all the way to the back, and then go all the way up your other side here. Now on your back piece, you might have to lift up on it like that a little bit to make sure everything lines up. Now these corners are going to be your hardest spot to zip up, so just kind of be patient with it. Just like that. Now at the end here, it is going to loop around on either side, but we don't need to worry about that. That's just for the stitching. It just needs to go right to the end here, and then we're done. So now before we flip our liner back over, we're going to install our hook and loop on our bottom portion. There's going to be one long strip that goes to our right, one long strip that goes to our left. Those are going to be 36 inches long. There's going to be a red backing on those to easily identify them. And we're just going to start right at the end and apply that all the way down. We're going to do that on both sides. So now we have our tailgate portion flipped over, so we're seeing the underside of it. You can see there's a long stitched in strip of hook and loop at the top and bottom. Now at the top, which is going to be the end of our tailgate right here, we're going to use a long piece of hook and loop and attach it there, starting at one end and then going all the way down to the other end. And then our bottom, we're going to use some of our small 2-inch strips. I'm going to use 5 at the bottom, evenly spaced. So I'm going to start on the end, on each end, and then I'm going to put one directly in the middle, and then split the difference between the middle and the ends. So now we're going to install our strips to our back wall. You can see there's 3 different locations here. The very top portion is going to get one continuous strip, again starting at one end and working our way all the way to the opposite end. If there's any excess there, just go ahead and trim that off with a pair of scissors. Now our next two are going to get 6 of our 2-inch strips each. Doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, and you can always pick them up and rearrange them if you need to. So now on each sidewall, we're going to have a strip at the very top, a strip right above our wheel well, and then at the end we have another strip here. So we're going to do 6, 6, and then we're going to do 4 along this end here. And then remember, when we get this in the truck, if you don't like the placement of one particular one, you can always pick it up and move it. And on our end, the same thing, 4, but then we're going to evenly space them. And then we're going to repeat this on the opposite side wall as well. Now before we put our bed liner into our truck, we need to remove all of our factory tie-down cleats. There's going to be 2 on each side for a total of 4. And then if you also have your box link cleats that go up here, you're going to need to remove those as well. This truck doesn't actually have those, so we don't need to worry about that part. We're just going to be removing our cleats down at the bottom. Now to remove these tie downs, there's going to be 2 T30 Torx bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. We're just going to remove those, remove all 4 of these tie downs, and then later, after we get our bed rug installed, we'll make some provisions to put these back in. Now we can lift our bed liner up into our truck, and we're going to push it all the way to the front. So now we have our bed liner in our truck. It's pushed all the way up against our rear wall, and we need to lift up on one side so that we can attach the hook and loop that's on the bottom. So if we lift that up, we can see our red backing here. It's actually going to attach to this location right here, which is right next to our wheel well. It's going to be our first indent up here. To do that, we need to take some isopropyl alcohol. We're going to put that on a paper towel, and then we're just going to wipe that area clean. Give that a second or two to dry, and then we can start to peel back the backing on our 3M. Pull that all the way off, and then we're going to very carefully set that back into place, and then just apply some pressure along that whole piece of hook and loop. We're going to do that on both sides. Next, we're going to move to our back wall. And again, the first thing that we're going to do is clean off all of the areas where we're going to be attaching our 3M with isopropyl alcohol. And once we've had everything clean, we give it a few seconds to dry. We're going to start at our bottom row. We're going to start in the middle. We're just going to release the first 2 in the center, and we're going to push those into place. Then we can go back through on the sides and do the same thing. And again, just put a little bit of pressure on each of those for a few seconds. Make sure they adhere to the truck. And then we can go to our second row. And again, we're just going to remove the backing. And then starting in our center, I'm going to push those into place. Now you want to make sure that you have your top folded down like this. We want to make sure that this back wall is fully seated up against the rear of the truck. Now if we've done everything correctly, our liner should line up almost exactly with the top of our bulkhead here, and it should be evenly spaced on both sides. So then we can just start at one side and just remove that backing off the top. And then I'm going to start on one side and then work my way down towards the other side. as you're sticking this in place, you want to make sure, again, that you're pushing up against that liner to make sure it's fully seated against the back of the wall. And the reason you start at one side and work all the way down is so you get that nice even line all the way across the top. So now here are our 2 tie-down holes right at the front of our truck. Now to mark those, I'm got our liner pulled back, and I'm just going to use my finger to kind of mark that hole, and then I'm going to take a utility knife and I'm just going to make a small slit right there. We can see it come through the other side right in the location that I need it. So again, we're just going to make a small incision, and then we're going to do kind of like a cross or a plus there so that we can get our bolt. So I'm going to slice it down, and then I'm going to slice it a little bit sideways, and that'll give us enough room to get a bolt in there and then put our tie downs back in. So I'm going to do that on the front bolt and on the back bolt, and then we're actually going to install our tie down before we attach any of our adhesive. And don't worry about hurting your bed rug. This isn't going to cause it to tear or anything like that. And then again, we'll do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure when you're doing this that when you actually make your incisions, you're pulling the liner out so that you don't cut or scratch up the paint of your truck. So now we have our tie down bolts showing through there. They're actually threaded in a couple of threads. And then if I fold this liner back, you can actually see it here. It looks pretty factory, so you won't be able to tell. Those holes aren't going to hurt anything. You're going to do that on all of your factory components that you want to put back into the truck. Now that we've got our 2 tie downs in on our driver's side, we're going to go ahead and attach our bottom row. Again, we need to wipe that area down with some rubbing alcohol. Make sure it's nice and clean. Also, check the areas that you applied your hook and loop. Make sure it's not hitting any dips or any kind of weird places in the side of the bed where it could come undone easily. Now, if you have your box links here and over here, you can make the holes for those bolts, but don't install those until you have this bottom layer in. Now, once your rubbing alcohol is dry, we can go ahead and remove all of our red backings. And we're just going to do this one at a time, starting at the front. And again, once you place that, you want to put some pressure on it. You also want to make sure that you have the liner nice and tight to the body of the truck. We don't want any loose components when we go to put this on. Same thing with your wheel well. You want to make sure that's pushed all the way in before you attach any backing at that location. So you want to make sure it's pushed nice and in, then attach your Velcro. Again, once you get all those in, just go back through and apply pressure to each of them. And at this point, you can actually tighten down your tie downs. Now we're going to do our top line. Again, making sure to clean the entire area with our rubbing alcohol. Now again, we're going to start at the front and just go one at a time. You want to make sure that this corner is fully pressed in. And then the very top of this liner is going to go up and underneath your bed cap. And that'll give you a nice seamless look. And again, once you reach the end, you just want to go back through and apply some pressure to each of those points. Now we're going to move to our side piece towards our tailgate. Same thing, rubbing alcohol, clean the entire area, remove all your backing. And then this time we're going to start at the bottom, and we're just going to pull everything down a little bit and then go up one at a time from there, making sure to follow this line on our truck all the way up to the top. Then you're going to repeat that whole entire process on the other side. So now we're ready to do our tailgate portion. We're just going to flip that over and pull it tight. We're going to try to get the edge as close to the end of our tailgate as possible without getting into our plastic. So we want to attach it to the metal on the tailgate, not the plastic. And then we can kind of lift it up, see where that's going to land. You want to make sure you check the top and the bottom. And then we can flip it back over and take our rubbing alcohol and clean all the places that it's going to attach. And then we can just give that a few seconds to dry. We're just going to take our tailgate portion and put that back into place. Again, we're going to hold it all the way to the edge, and then we're going to go to our back corner, pull off our backing like that, and stick it into place. Now go ahead and check your alignment, make sure you have a nice straight line here, and then you can lift it up, and then we're going to go along the back and continue to peel our backing and stick it into place. Each time you do that, you just want to make sure that you pull this cover piece all the way tight. And then again, just apply some pressure to make sure it sticks. Once we have the back done, we can go back to the front, and we're just going to peel a little bit back at a time. Again, pulling our liner tight, and then we're just going to go very slowly and peel that back and stick it into place. And then again, just go all the way down and apply some pressure. All right guys, that's gonna complete the installation. Now you can see our new bed liner is gonna give us a nice clean look. It's gonna protect all the sides and the floor very well. And with that 3M adhesive at the bottom, you're not gonna get any kind of movement or wear through your paint. If you have any other questions, give us a call or visit us online.